happy is he.
Now I just want to touch on this only begotten aspect again. Okay? Go ahead, brother.
Yahushua said unto them, if Elohim were your father, ye would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from Elohim.
Okay, so now he's letting us know something. See, even though we read in the history of his life story that he came through in this physical world through a mother named Miriam, he just went way past Miriam. And he said, I proceeded and came forth from the Father. Is that the truth? Do we believe that? Can we accept that? That's too much for us to handle. My brother, next passage, 16, 27 and 28.
For the Father himself loves you, because you have loved me, and have believed that I come forth from Elohim.
Hear that? See, these disciples, his Talmudim, they believed that he did come forth from the Father. In other words, they understood who he was. Okay, go ahead.
I came forth from the Father, and have come into the world. Again, I leave the world and go to the Father.
Okay, and that also keeps in mind that distinction between Father and the Son. 17:8.
For I have given unto them the words which thou hast given me, and they have received them, and have known surely that I came out from thee, and they have believed that thou didst send me.
Okay, so again, we see three witnesses that testify that Mashiach, Yahushua, came forth from the Father. Hence, he is the only begotten. Now, let's look at this passage. Now, interesting enough, and one thing that I'm just thankful. Thankful that the Most High has blessed us all to come together and really study and learn his word. But here's something for everybody to chew on a little bit. This is coming from the book of Isaiah. Okay. Now, Isaiah was one of those prophets, and we're going to touch on this, again a little further, a little more detail. But I just want everybody to listen to this. Listen to what he's saying here. And I'm going to chapter 43, and I'm going to read verse 10. Now, all of this coming in light of, knowing there's a distinction between Father and Son, based on the words of Mashiach himself, how he proceeded forth and came from the Father. No man, no person has ever saw the Father, has ever heard the Father, but he said that he declared him. The Son declared him. Okay? Listen to this. Now, what happens a lot of times, as we learned years ago, we read things and we just read over it. But pay close attention. Again, Isaiah 43, verse 10. You are my witnesses, saith Yahweh, and my servant whom I have chosen, that you may know and believe me and understand that I am he. Before me there was no mighty one formed, neither shall there be after me. Now my question, what did you hear?
Sound like he declared himself.
What did you hear in that verse?
It was a God that was full. One God, that's it.
Hold up, man. Hold up. Are you telling me that what you hear this verse saying is that mighty one was formed? Does that term mean that he was made? Does that mean that he was created? Let's go back up to the beginning. Verse 10 again. You are my witnesses, saith Yahweh. Who's speaking here?
Yahweh.
That tetragrammaton. That yo, wow. He's speaking right here. He says, and my servant whom I have chosen, that you may know and believe me and understand that I am he. before me there was no mighty one formed, neither shall there be after me. Then he goes on to say, I, even I am Yahweh, and beside me there is no Savior. Question is, do you believe that? Look that term formed up. That's some other homework for you. And it means to be brought into being, to be created. In other words, Yahweh is a created entity from his very own word. He testified it. And guess what, brothers and sisters? That's the Old Testament.
Yep.
That's the Old Testament saying that he was formed. So after he was formed now, in the beginning was the Word. Of course, we know that, we got life, existence here in this world we living in to be a teacher to us. So we're in the La Quinta Inn. So before somebody actually constructed this building, they had to have an idea. They had to have a thought. This is what happened. See? The Father had an idea. He had a thought. And that thought is manifest in Mashiach Yahushua. But at one point, he wasn't called that. He was called something else. And let's look at some other things. I'm almost done. We're going to look at some other things. Now let's go to, anybody have any questions? Okay. Hebrews chapter 1. Now the interesting thing about the Hebrews, how many people familiar with the book of the Hebrews? Or the letter written to the Hebrews? And I tell you, it's hard to say, what's a favorite book. The Word is a favorite book, the whole Word. But then there's some other things that just have a special place with it. Now this is one of them, because one of the things that he's doing in here, the fact that it is a letter to the Hebrews, he's trying to get the right of the Hebrews. He is trying to get the Hebrew Israelites on point, because there are some issues that have arose even during that time, okay, that they didn't understand about what was given in the Tanakh. So before I'm going to start at verse 1. Let me just go to chapter 5 and 6 briefly, just to touch on some things so that we understand. Now, again, this is written to the Hebrews, the Israelites. And I want to emphasize this because this has to be made clear even in our day and time. So I'm going to go to chapter 5. I'm going to start at verse 12. And he's talking to, again, and let me clear, he ain't talking to the European Jews. He ain't talking to the Orthodox or the Reform or the conservative Jews. He's talking to black folk. If you wanna hop on the bandwagon about the black people being the original Israelite and everybody being black and people of color during this time, that's who he's talking to right now. Because this was long before their conversion took place. Okay? So he says in chapter 5 and verse 12, for the time ye ought to be teachers, you have need that one teach you again the first principles of the oracles of Mighty One. The reason why is because what they were doing, they were far away from the basic teaching of the Torah and the prophets. That's why the Messiah himself, when he walked the earth, he had to let them know, hold up. You say that you believe in this Torah, and the Torah is what testifies of me. See, if you really believed in it, like you proclaiming you believe in it, we wouldn't be having this discussion right here. You'd be falling down on your knees and giving praise to me because you understood what I wrote through my servants. See, there are places where the Messiah, he didn't have to boast about who he was. His intent was to turn our hearts and minds to the Father. But there's a place, he says, you ready to condemn me because I said I am the Son of the Mighty One? Did I not tell you in your